Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Terror cabinet of Taliban takes final shape. Head of the insurgent group's leadership council, Mullah Hasan Akhund, will head the new Taliban government in Afghanistan. Mujahid also announced that Mullah Baradar will serve as the deputy to Mullah Akhund. Similarly, Amir Muttaqi has been appointed the Minister of Foreign Affairs with Sher Abbas Stanikzai as his deputy. At the same time, Sirajuddin Haqqani, a man who has a $5 billion bounty on his head and leads a terror network, is now the new Minister of Interior in Afghanistan, and Mullah Yaqub, the new Defense Minister. That's the big breaking news coming in from Afghanistan. A new interim government in Afghanistan has taken shape. I'm joined by Major General G.D. Bakshi joining me live on the broadcast tonight. Also with me, consulting editor of Times Now, Maruf Raza joining me. Maruf, how do you see this new motley group of individuals who have joined in to form the interim government? Haqqani as the interior or the home minister. What does that mean to you?
Well, it clearly is a slap on the face of the United States, amongst other things, because it was the U.S. Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Mike Mullen, who had called him and his group a veritable arm of the Pakistan's ISI. There is also a bounty on his head of $5 million. They are apparently meant to be the most combat-ready group amongst all the militants who are now walking through the streets of Kabul and other streets in Afghanistan. So quite clearly, America, having left and having fought them for 20 years, is now having to watch a complete back to square one exactly 20 years later, because it was these very groups that were ruling Afghanistan. The Americans hounded them out. They stuck it out, most of them housed and humored by Pakistan, and they're back now because this is now Pakistan's really the most, I suppose, precious hour since their rout in Bangladesh 50 years ago. So the Pakistan army is now feeding to the people the basic idea that Pakistan army is capable, it has succeeded, and therefore all these people, though they have differences between them, they have one thing in common, apart from their hardline views, and that is they can be tamed by the ISI and the Pakistani military. I see the government in Afghanistan as an extension of the Pakistani hardline view on what they want to create in Southern Asia, a Sharia state, and Afghanistan, for all practical purposes now, will be another province of Pakistan, both in terms of population, in terms of GDP, and in terms of everything. It is close to about 1/5 or 1/7 of the size of Pakistan, and that is how it is going to be run by the ISI. The second interesting thing is that all the appointments, interestingly, are given to people who have been in the news, but they're all called acting this and acting that. For instance, Mullah Akhundzada is called acting Prime Minister, Mullah Baradar is called acting Deputy Prime Minister, and apart from Sirajuddin Haqqani, Sher Mohammad Abbas Stanikzai, who was the man who engaged with the Indian embassy just about a week ago in Qatar, is the acting foreign minister. And most interestingly, Mullah Muhammad Omar's son, Omar, as you know, was one of the founders of the Taliban, a man who went into recluse, seeing that governance and engaging with people was not his forte. But his son now is I think the Minister of Defense. So we have a regime which is obviously jarring to our sentiments in India and in most of the Western and developed world. But interestingly, the two major powers who are wanting to have the last laugh on the United States, China and Russia, are both quite happy to have them in place, have been engaging with them. And my guess is within the next few days, China, certainly along with Pakistan, will recognize this Taliban government. as well as
And
the
that's
possibility
certainly not going to be good
of-
news as far as India is concerned. Major General G.D. Bakshi, the fact that the acting Prime Minister is somebody who's known to be close to the ISI, somebody who is the Interiors Minister, the Home Minister of Afghanistan, is somebody who carries a 5 million bounty on his head. And for India, it couldn't be a more somber moment as our backyard turns into virtually an extension of Pakistan, which we've been calling Terroristan for ever so long. General G.D. Bakshi, how do you see these developments in Afghanistan?
Navika, I would like to draw your attention to the process of government formation, right? Last Friday, they said, we are going to announce the government, we are going to announce the government. And then what happened? Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid, Director General ISI of Pakistan, rushes to Kabul. And he rushes there without the permission of his chief. Very interesting. We'll get onto that story a little some other time. But the fact is that he has Mullah Baradar, who was supposed to be, as per the speculation, the Prime Minister, beaten up, right? And clashes are engineered between Sirajuddin Haqqani, the military muscular arm of the ISI, inside Kabul. He is thrashed. He is made to accept one step lower. He is now Deputy Prime Minister. Another clash took place between Mullah Akhund Zada, who was supposed to be the Amirul Moimin, and the Haqqani group, and there 17 people were killed in this clash, all engineered by the ISI. Here are people saying that this is a government that they will be able to do business with. This is the sword arm of the ISI. And whatever pretensions they may have had to autonomy, to freedom, is on despicable display before the whole world. The Afghan people are deeply, deeply disturbed and upset. You can see the protests taking place in Kabul, in Herat, in a whole lot of cities. How many Afghan minorities have you seen in this ministry? How many Tajik, how many Uzbek, how many Hazara? Inclusive government, we were told. You know, the Americans were trying to hard sell this government to us, that we haven't sold out for no rhyme or reason. We are going to get you Taliban 2.0. May I tell you, Navika, Taliban 2.0 is worse than Taliban 1.0 because in the interim, they have a role model in the ISIS and what they did in Syria, in Iraq.
Yes, Major General G.D. Bakshi, between the ISI and the ISIS and Taliban 1.0, this is the new Taliban 2.0. And Taliban spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid says, we will not allow illegal protests. We will control protests that are coordinated from abroad. Our police are not trained in dealing with protests. We call on the media and others to protest according to rules. So they're not familiar with protests. They only know one way to deal with protests, and I don't want to explain that way from what we've seen in the past. But clearly, this is certainly our worst dreams coming true, worst nightmares rather coming true. And for America, you know, this is worse than what they'd started with 30 years ago. Well, where is Afghanistan going to go from here? How stable is this entire government going to be, given that everybody is still in an acting position? How does it really work out for an interiors minister to have a bounty of $5 million on his head? And how does it work for India to have an ISI aide as the Prime Minister of Afghanistan? Well, we'll have to wait and watch how India calibrates and calculates its next move. We'll keep you informed on that. Thank you, General G.D. Bakshi and Maruf Raza, for joining me on the News Hour tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the demand for a namaz room in